Hello there, I'm Paul Voodini, the Victorian beat poet, also known as Steampunk Poet Laureate, and I'm here at Whitby for the Steampunk weekend where I'll be performing 3 times. I hope you enjoy my performance. It's a lot of fun, it's very interactive, it's very boisterous, and I'll be performing 4 separate pieces. So all I can say to you is I hope you enjoy it as I channel my inner Edgar Allan poet and exercise my poetic lie seance with Victorian and Gothic poetry. Thank you very much.
Paul Whitby, Steampunk Poet Extraordinaire.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, my name is Paul Voodini. I am the Victorian beat poet. I'm sure one or two of you are wondering to yourselves just what the dickens is a Victorian beat poet and what does one of them do. So rather than try and describe it to you, I think it's better to do a demonstration, show, don't tell, as they say. The weather is a little bit off today, but it has been a very warm summer so far, I think we'll all agree. Very sunny, very hot, too hot at times, I think. And so with that in mind, with this blistering heat we've been experiencing, there is perhaps only one poem I could possibly begin my demonstration with. 'Twas a night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in the hope that St. Nicholas soon would be there. And the children, all tucked up safe in their beds, as visions of sugar plums danced through their heads, and Lenore in her kerchief, and I in my cap, had settled our brains for a long winter's nap. And as I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping on the chamber door. "It is the children," I murmured to Lenore as she dozed, "knocking on the chamber door, only this, and nothing more." Yeah, but I remember, it was in that bleak December, and every dying ember cast its ghost across the floor, when from the lawn there arose such a clatter that I fell from the bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew in a flash, tore open the curtains and flung up the sash. The moon on the breast of the fresh fallen snow gave a lustre of midday to objects below, and what to my wandering eyes should appear but a raven, a demon, a creature from some madman's nightmare. No respect showed he, not a moment stopped or stayed he, but boldly came he and sat upon the chamber door, sat upon the bust of Pallas just above the chamber door, sat and perched, and nothing more. But then I had to stop myself from smiling at this raven demon, and the strange twisted face he chose to wear. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a berry. His droll little mouth was drawn up in a bow, and the beard on his chin was as black as coal. Quoth this raven, "Nevermore," and set about his work, till Lenore he approached and twisted her neck with a jerk. The wink of his eye and the twist of her head soon told me that Lenore was now dead. And then darkness fell across my land. My midnight hour was close at hand, and creatures crawled in search of blood to terrorize my neighborhood. And whosoever should be found without the soul for getting down must stand and face the hounds of hell and rot within a corpse's shell. And the children who knocked so sweetly on the chamber door, well, they knocked no more. Quoth this raven, "Nevermore." And now here I am, all alone, except for the raven, the demon, the creature from some madman's nightmare. He's never flitting, but still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above the chamber door. And yet I heard him exclaim, as my beloved departed this life, "A Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Thank you. The more astute ones amongst you will no doubt have noticed that that poem was actually a mashup, as the kids of today call it, of 2 poems, the classic Night Before Christmas, or to give it its proper title, A Visit from St. Nicholas, mashed together with the equally classic Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, with elements from Michael Jackson's Thriller thrown in there, just for good fun. Yeah, and you know, why not? And perhaps that's what I mean by Victorian beat poetry. Taking different styles of poetry, different poems, throwing them together and seeing if we can't find something that's at least a little interesting, if not remotely entertaining. And certainly this next poem is also a mashup. This time I'm going to mash together the 1950s beat poem called Howl, something of a classic in its own right, together with the Victorian Gothic poem of Rossetti's Goblin Market. So this poem is a little more intense than the last one, if you can imagine such a thing. And I dedicate it to all of you here who, like me, find it difficult to resist temptation. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves across midnight streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix. Angel-headed hipsters burning for the eternal heavenly connection with the starry dynamo in the machinery of night, whose poverty and tatters and hollow-eyed and high sat up smoking cigarettes in the supernatural darkness of cold water flats and floated high above cities contemplating jazz, who bared their brains to heaven and hell and saw angels staggering across tenements illuminated and passed through universities with radiant cool eyes, hallucinating Arkansas and Blake-like tragedies amongst those scholars of war, who were expelled from the academies for being crazy and publishing obscene odes on the windows of the skull and cowered in unshaven rooms in underwear, burning their money in wastebaskets and listening to the terror through the walls. We must not look at goblin men. We must not buy their fruits. Who knows upon what soil they fed their hungry, thirsty roots? Come by, called the goblins, hobbling down the glen. Oh, said Lizzie, Laura, 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 we must not peek at goblin men. And Lizzie closed her eyes, closed them tight so she could not look. But Laura raised her silken head and whispered like the babbling brook, oh, Lizzie, down the glen come goblin men. One bears a basket, one bears a plate, one bears a golden dish of many pounds weight. How sweet the vines must grow, whose grapes are so luscious. How warm the wind must blow through those fruit bushes. No, said Lizzie, no, 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 it's not charmers. Their evil gifts would harm us. I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical, naked, dragging themselves through midnight streets at dawn, looking for an angry fix. We must not look at goblin men. We must not buy their fruits. Who knows upon what soil they fed their dirty little roots. Thank you. So yes, a little intense that one, so I think it's time we liven the mood a little bit. And I intend to liven the mood by reciting the Gashlycrumb Tinies by Edward Gorey. Some of you may be aware of the Gashlycrumb Tinies, some of you won't be. For those of you who are not aware of the Gashlycrumb Tinies, it isn't a Victorian publication, but it's very Victorian-esque, and it is certainly very Gothic. It portends to be a child's A to Z, with each letter of the alphabet being represented by a child's name. So, for instance, K is for Kate. However, alongside the child's name, it also recites how that child died. But fear not, it is tongue-in-cheek, it is dark comedy, it is black humour, it is not meant to be taken remotely seriously, as you'll gather as I recite it. However, this is the year 2018, so I'm duty-bound to say, trigger warning. If you think this poem will upset you, then for the next 5 minutes, please put your hands over your ears and go la 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 la, and don't worry, the nasty man will be gone soon enough. However, for those of you who are brave enough to stay with me, you will be well rewarded, because sometimes a weird thing happens when a poet is reciting a poem and an audience gets almost like a connection with the poem. They almost can tell where the poem is going to go. They can almost tell what the next line is going to be. This is especially true in rhyming poetry. It's almost as though the audience gets a sense of déjà vu, of having heard this somewhere before and sort of knowing what the next line is going to be. If we develop this telepathic link between us and you think you know what the next line is going to be, then by all means do join in. Nothing would fill my heart with more gladness than to hear your dulcet tones reciting the poem back at me. That would be wonderful. So without further ado, the Gashlycrumb Tinies by Edward Gorey. A is for Amy, who fell down the stairs. B is for Basil, assaulted by bears. C is for Clara, who faded away. And D is for Desmond, thrown out of a sleigh. E is for Edward, who choked on a peach. And F is for Fanny, sucked dry by a leech. But whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother, you're staying alive, staying alive. Feel the city shaking, everybody's breaking, staying alive, staying alive. Oh, 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 staying alive, staying alive. Oh, 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 staying alive. G is for George, smothered under a rug, and H is for Hector, done in by a thug. I is for Ida, who drowned in the lake, and J is for James, who took lie by mistake. I should point out that as well as James being the actual name of my son, so reciting that line is always a little weird, lye is actually a cleaning compound, much favoured in Edwardian and Victorian times, but very dangerous, very caustic, usually fatal if ingested, as James found out to his peril in the poem. K is for Kate, struck by an axe, and L is for Laura, who swallowed some tax. M is for Morris, who was swept out to sea, and N is for Neville, who died of ennui. Ennui, ladies and gentlemen, an almost pathological boredom, quite literally being bored to death, being so bored that you can't be bothered to stay alive. The only advice I can give you, ladies and gentlemen, is that no matter how bad your ennui gets, always remember that whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother, you're staying alive, staying alive. Feel the city breaking, everybody shaking, staying alive, staying alive. Oh, 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 staying alive, staying alive. That's it, oh, 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 staying alive. Now you're getting it. O is for Olive, run through with an awl. An awl, I do apologise, ladies and gentlemen, some of this terminology is very antiquated. An awl is like a very sharp stick, almost like a knitting needle, but a lot sharper, used primarily for making holes in leather, so clearly very dangerous. P is for Prue, trampled flat in a brawl. At last, something we can all relate to. I'm sure we've all been there at some point or other in our illustrious careers, in some seedy nightclub or pub somewhere, being flattened by a brawl. I know I certainly have, and perhaps more than once. That was P. Q. Oh yes, Q is for Quentin, who sank in the mire, and R is for Rhoda, who was consumed by fire. S is for Susan, who died of the fits, and T is for Titus, who blew into bits. U is for Una, who slipped down the drain, and V is for Victor, squashed under a train. W is for Winnie, encased in ice, and X is for Xerxes, eaten by mice. Y is for Yorick, whose head was caved in, and Z is for Zelda, who drank too much gin. I like the sound of Zelda. She sounds like my kind of girl. But always remember, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're a brother or whether you're a mother, you're staying alive, staying alive. Feel the city breaking, everybody shaking, staying alive, staying alive. Oh, 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 staying alive, staying alive. Oh, 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 staying alive. Ladies and gentlemen, the Gashlycrumb Tinies by Edward Gorey, with additional material provided by the one and only PTs. Look out, boys, clear the track. The witches are here, they all came back. They strung them high, no use, no use. What fears a witch? The hangman's noose. They buried them deep, but they didn't lie still. Cats and witches are hard to kill. They said they couldn't and wouldn't die, but the book said they would, but the book, it's a lie. A fair witch crawled to a young man's side, so he kissed her and he took her and he made her his bride. But an angel came in the middle of the night and filled the room with a heavenly light. And he saw how in his arms there lay a thing more foul than words could say. So he dressed in haste and followed the angel as the morning broke on the eastern hill. And he steeled himself and followed still as the evening fell on the western hill, but laughing and mocking and clinging to his side. Oh dear God, the foul witch bride. That old black magic's got me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well. Icy fingers up and down my spine. That same old witchcraft when your eyes meet mine. In Essex County there's many a roof well known to him of the crimson hoof. And the small square windows are all in view as the midnight hags go flying through on their trusty broomsticks flying high, casting shadows across the sky, crossing the paths of owls and bats and holding on tight to their midnight cats. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble, fill it of a fenny snake, in the cauldron boil and bake, close the curtains, keep out of sight. As Newt said in Aliens, they mostly come at night. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Voodini. I am the Victorian Beat Poet. Do seek me out on Facebook, should you use such a thing. I am there to be found. If you would like a business card, I have hundreds of little things, so please come forward and take one off me and engage in conversation. That would be wonderful. I'm back again at 4 o'clock, so if you like to do this again, let's all do round 2 at 4 o'clock. That would be wonderful. Apart from that, I thank you for your kind indulgence and wish you the very best of days. Thank you.